Welcome to the Broker Growth Accelerator, where we discuss how real estate brokers can accelerate their growth by improving their agent recruiting and retention. I'm your host, Jim Turner, and today we'll discuss growth tactics with our special guest, who is a subject matter expert in the industry. Let's get started. My name is Jim Turner, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Brokerkit, and I will be your host today. Today on the show, we're super excited to have Bruce Campbell, an experienced vet in the real estate recruiting space down in Sacramento, California. Bruce, welcome to the Broker Growth Accelerator.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you having me on.
Let's just maybe start out with a little bit of background. So how long have you been in the business, and how'd you get into real estate and kind of gravitate onto kind of the agent recruiting and retention space?
Okay, so I've been in the business a little over 8 years now. Got into real estate because I had a huge chip on my shoulder. Actually, I was in radio broadcasting for about 30 years, and that's a pretty volatile industry, and you lose your job a lot through no fault of your own, just a change of format, change of ownership in stations, that kind of thing. And the last time that happened to me, I said, you know what, that's it. And a good friend of mine, his dad was in the real estate business. And he said, hey, you should go talk to my dad. So I went for, 10-minute cup of coffee, ended up in the office with him for a couple of hours and ended up getting my real estate license and getting into it. Here at HomeSmart Eye Care Realty, I got kind of noticed for some of the marketing I was doing as an agent. Got hired part-time to work in the office doing some marketing. And then when our recruiter left, they said, hey, we have a recruiting opening. What do you think? I said, I'll give it a try. And so been doing this for 3.5 years or so now in the recruiting side of it.
Okay, very good. Yeah. So here at Brokerkit, we believe all brokerages, really all businesses, have two primary funnels, the sales funnel and the talent funnel. We're super focused on that talent funnel. And that's what we're going to talk about today, just starting at really top of the funnel. But to hit the mark, you need to know where you're headed. So let's start out with strategy. So maybe let's just talk about kind of the business in general. Like, how many agents do you have now? Where do you want to be in 12 months? Like, what are your kind of goals for the new year?
Real good question. And fortunately, I know exact answers. 364 is where we are today. 500 is where we want to be by the end of the year. That's a pretty lofty goal, especially with, we just came off of a pretty tough year industry wide. And we saw a lot of people who were, doing very little business or maybe about to retire kind of take that as their decision to retire. So on the sever side, we've seen an increase. So we're really having to step up recruiting even more to reach that 500 goal. But, we definitely have some strategies in place, some incentives in place to try to do that. And I think the ongoing incentive here at HomeSmart Eye Care Realty is just what we offer agents, really high value for really low fees. And that's kind of our ongoing incentive besides any special incentives we have.
Right. And that's really kind of my next question. What sets you apart when you're talking to agents compared to other brokerages? And how do you explain that value proposition so that it kind of connects with them?
Well, one thing I tell just about every prospective agent that I meet with is I make them a lot of promises as a recruiter, and all recruiters make a lot of promises. And I tell them, and I'm not the guy who will fulfill those promises and keep them. It's other members of our staff. It's our compliance manager. It's our mentors with new agents. It's our broker, who is probably the most accessible, hands-on, supportive broker in the entire real estate industry. He'll hate me for doing this because he always tells me, do not promote me, promote the company. But the company starts with Isom Coleman on down. And so the biggest thing that I promote with our company is support. And I always say it's that kind of thing that you won't know it until you need it. It's like a home warranty, until your refrigerator goes out, you don't know how good your home warranty company is, how soon they get the tech out there, that kind of thing. So that's what I really promote. We do it all with a really high value here. We have low flat fees. We're flat fee 100% commission company. HomeSmart nationwide is, and most anybody checked into your podcast, Jim, will know about HomeSmart and know that that's what we're all about. But we fight that because people think, oh, well, you don't charge much, you must not provide much. But the biggest thing I try to do in any kind of recruiting meeting, anytime I'm talking to anybody, is tell them that, oh no, we provide everything you've come to expect from any other brokerage that's charging a lot more, but do it for a lot less.
Hmm. And so, what is the ideal profile of agents you are looking to hire? Do you focus on new agents, experienced agents, some mix? Like, are there specific kind of, criteria you're looking for? Who is that ideal agent for your brokerage?
Super good question, and I wish I had a better answer just because I know to do effective recruiting, you really need to target and that kind of thing. Ideal agent for us, besides amount of experience or transactions that they close, really is someone who's going to represent the company well, because this is a very independent business. Agents are basically out there representing themselves, but they're also representing HomeSmart as well. So somebody who's going to represent the company very well in a very professional manner and with zero liability. I don't think that really answers your question. We do really welcome newly licensed agents, because just over a year ago we revamped our mentorship program and have had very big success with that. So we go after that. We're typically not going after top producers because typically they're really settled in. So we're going after mid-level producers that may not know how much value they can get from us as opposed to where they currently are.
Hmm. And having, interviewed people, recruited them, hired them, helped onboard them, seen who succeeds. What are some of the traits? There's experience, obviously, but,
Right.
just like innate aptitude, what are the personality traits? Like, through time, you develop pattern matching. And you start to see these patterns as you talk to people. And what are some of those patterns? Like, what are the things that you look for, beyond experience for people that you think are going to be a good fit?
Well, real estate is it's part people work, part paperwork. So, somebody could be a whiz at contracts and all that, but unless they're a real people person, they are going to struggle in this industry. So, usually when you sit down with an agent or even on the phone, you get a little bit of a gauge on what they're like and what they would be like with clients. So they'll learn the paperwork, or they know the paperwork, or if they're an experienced agent, they've developed their habits already. Fortunately, we have really good transaction coordinators here if they've developed bad habits. But when I talk to somebody, and this is after a few years of recruiting. I used to be a little bit in the dark about this, to be honest, Jim. But now you can pick up a vibe pretty quickly if somebody's got. They have to have drive. I mean, this business, even the agents who do a whole bunch of business, if they take their foot off the gas just for a moment, their business drops. And so you kind of get that vibe just from talking to somebody, if they've got drive, if they've got enthusiasm. So that I think I see that in the newer agents. You can almost tell which ones are really gonna do well and which ones might fall into that really tough statistic of maybe dropping out. And that's where, back to our mentorship program, that's where I try to make sure that they know we're going to really hold your feet to the fire on this, not just for us, but for you. So you don't become one of those statistics of people who drop out after a couple of years, because it's tough business. It really is. Everybody thinks it's going to be great and easy paychecks in the beginning, but it's not.
Right, right. And so, how do you find them, right? What are your sources of recruiting leads? And is your focus more on kind of outbound, in person events, on the phone, reaching out via email, text, inbound leads of some sort? How do you find these people?
Our number one source is, and has been since I've been doing this, and I think it's probably this way across the board for everybody. It's your existing agents who are doing business with other agents and saying good things about the company. So referrals from our agents are our number one source, I would say. And to have those kind of referrals, you have to keep your agents happy. You've got to treat your agents right. So we're real big on making sure that we provide everything that our agents need. And then when I get those referrals, obviously I have to have a way to keep in touch with them, and that's where Brokerkit has really helped. I've had to learn the business of recruiting as I've gone. I was never a recruiter before, and I've learned Brokerkit as I've gone. So the way that I utilize it today is a lot different than when I first started, and I'm learning more about the campaigns and
Hmm.
all the things that you could do to stay in contact with people. And let's face it, Brokerkit's beautiful for automation, but if you rely just on automated texts and emails,
Right.
you're not going to get anywhere. So, now I'm doing utilizing more of the tasks and putting that into a campaign where it's gives me a little nudge, little reminder, hey, reach out to so and so
Yep.
personally, not with an automated message. So I hope this is answering your question. But number
Yeah.
one
100%.
source, yeah. But and you can't, just like a real estate agent can't rely on just one source. We can't rely on just one source. So we use social media, and we target our social media ads back to our Brokerkit landing page, that kind of thing. We do events. Though I think that's primarily it. A lot of email campaigns. So,
Hmm.
but that
Yep.
word of mouth, it's strong. It really is. When you have very happy agents who love their brokerage and they're telling others, it's a good way to reach people. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and as you mentioned, the fortunes and the follow up, right? I mean, you got to stay in touch with
Yeah.
people. And I'm a software guy. I love automation, but automation will only take you so far, right? You need to cut through the noise. You need to be highly personal. And some of the features we added recently were really, video and the AI assist for writing personal messages is to try to make it a little as automated as possible, but in a personal
Yeah.
way. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you've got to connect with people to start a conversation, get them interested.
Exactly. I think it's funny you bring up the AI, Jim, and I love the AI feature in Brokerkit, but I will admit I was the biggest, most reluctant AI user ever because I know they're going to take over the world. We can't rely on artificial intelligence. But now
Right.
I'll get an idea and it's like, okay, how can I better word this? How can I make this a little more concise?
Hmm.
And I'll just type that in and there it is. So.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a big help. It's a big tool. I'm trying not to always use it now because being a late adopter now it's easy to rely on. But I'm trying to
right.
make sure that I still keep that personal side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you're starting to reach out. At the end of the day, it's about developing a relationship with these people, which needs to start with some kind of conversation. How do you get people interested and, take it from, email, text, call to some kind of appointment? What does that conversation look like? How do you get people interested in having a more extensive dialogue, so to speak, about, the benefits of your brokerage?
Well, the biggest thing there is that dialogue needs to be mostly the agent and not me. And that was a mistake I was making in my early days of recruiting. And I really listened to Chris Voss. If you're familiar with Chris
Hmm.
Voss, Never Split the Difference, the author of that. And he has a saying called "Wait, why am I talking?" And you can push what your company has to offer all day long, but if you're not hearing the agent and listening to what their needs are, what they're looking for, I hate the term pain points, because but that is what we need to listen for. But I hate that term just because, not, to me, it sounds like, oh, you got to find what they're miserable about and capitalize. It's not that. What are they looking for? What do they really want?
Right.
And then see if you can provide that. And so I think most of the conversations are me listening. I used to, in the early days, I would use a script and follow it pretty strictly. And I think you can tell already, Jim, I'm used to talking, right? So I'm a talker. It's hard for me to shut up. It's hard for me to do. And I was going by this script and I wasn't,
Right.
it was getting me nowhere. And a lot of times, if you just ask a very sincere, simple question like, hey, how's real estate going for you? people will let you know, and then you can find out. Again, I hate the term pain points, but you can maybe hear something in there that, hey, I might be able to improve that situation for you. And a colleague of mine with another HomeSmart brokerage said, her name is Sarah at HomeSmart Evergreen. She said something that I learned in a meeting long ago. She said, I'm improving the lives of realtors one agent at a time. And she said that, and I thought, she's right, because I mean, it's my job to build the numbers, right? And we talked about I want to get to 500 agents and that. But that's just a goal. But really, what am I doing? What am I doing to meet that goal? It's not just us gaining agents. It's helping those agents find a brokerage that's a better fit for them, that's more profitable for them, that's
Right.
that's going to help them with their business. So
I like
I
that.
think
I had a coach once that said, don't focus on the revenue, focus on happy customers, because the revenue will always follow, right? And it's easier for people to be inspired by helping more people, right?
yeah,
And get the team around that. And it's a very positive mission. The numbers will always follow. If you're helping people succeed, the numbers, are a trailing indicator of that essentially. But that's all that matters.
right, right. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to get that conversation started. People are settled in and they're used to the way things are. And just like me with AI, I was not going to embrace it at all. Then I learned a little bit what it can do. And it's like, hey, maybe that will work for me. And it's the same in recruiting. Sometimes it's hard to get that somebody to open their mind to something a little bit. But once they do and start learning, then they find out how you can help them.
Sure. Where do you go from there, right? Like, how do you assess that it's a good fit? They say, okay, I'm interested. Where do you take it from there to how do you, I guess specifically, how do you close someone that once you've started that dialogue?
Well, you're probably talking to the worst closer in the world. I mean, I've been told that, you got to do this, got to do that. I'm not real good at that. I want it to be about them. I want them to feel like they really want to be here. I usually, it's not all based on the conversation. I do a little research. I'm not an extensive background check, but, check to see if they've got a restricted license or anything like that. But I usually know after a little 20-minute conversation if this is an agent that would be a good fit for us. And
Right.
I just let them know that yes, you would be a very good fit for us. So on that end, we would like you here. I hope that I've told you enough and been informative enough that you feel like we're a good fit for you. And I honestly feel, and I'm going to sound like a big cheerleader here, but this is my second HomeSmart brokerage because I moved to the Sacramento area from Fresno. I was with HomeSmart down there, and then I came up here. First thing I did was find a local HomeSmart brokerage. I'm a full on HomeSmart believer, but I honestly feel that when I meet with an agent and they don't join us, I feel that I've not done my job well enough in not promoting, but explaining all that we have to offer because I really feel that we are that good and provide that much value for agents.
And so this is my favorite question because hiring is very different in real estate when you're hiring commission only people, right?
Right.
It's different than a corporate job where somebody's W-2 salaried. What's an indicator of someone who's not a fit and how do you handle that?
Sometimes you get a little hunch. I don't know, this person can be right. And I've gone against that hunch and been bitten, to be very honest. So trust your gut. But I always like to say I don't want my opinion to stand in the way of anybody's career. So now sometimes it's easy, it's clear. I mean, sometimes you have people, I mean, I've had people make some pretty blatant racist statements in an interview, which is,
Oh, wow.
we've got no place for that. So it's like,
Yeah.
thank you, but no thanks.
That's a pretty clear tell there.
It's a pretty clear one, and it's beyond me why they blurt something like that out, but it's happened. There's times when, you're getting signs, I guess I should say, that someone's not going to be a right fit, and
Hmm.
you just have to say, thanks. And I don't think this is the right fit, but we wish you the best.
Right.
You kind of go on from there. And that's a hard thing to do, right? Because it's my job to bring agents in. And so sometimes you have to put the brakes on that. And especially if you're having a great month and you're hiring people and you're hiring a lot of great agents. And I love when I hire an agent because I always say, oh, yeah, I feel real good about this one. I feel real good. And sometimes I find myself saying that all the time. Man, I really think this person's going to be a great fit, really. And then when somebody's not, it's like, okay, you got to put the brakes on that momentum. It's hard to do. You want to
Right.
keep going, keep hiring, but sometimes you got to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I love that you said you got to trust your gut. I had this exact conversation earlier. I'm a pretty logic driven person, I'm a
Yeah,
technology guy, but I tell you what, like hiring is one thing that you cannot apply logic to. With people, you have to trust your gut. Like if your
yeah,
gut's feeling uneasy, it's not going to work out. Like you just
right.
need to, don't let your
Yeah.
brain decide it. Like the gut can override the brain. You got to let it.
Yeah. And that difficult conversation when you're right then and there saying, I'm sorry, but you're just not the right fit for us. That's a little difficult, right? You hate to let somebody down, but that's a much easier conversation than 3 months in when you're calling them and saying, hey, you're going to have to find another brokerage because of this, and that. And again, it's never over opinion. It's over, specific things that may have been violated or,
Right.
liability issues coming up, but it's always an easier conversation to have on the front end than the back end.
Okay, so let's say they've signed, right?
Hmm.
Um, the onboarding phase, that first really 30, 60, 90 days is critical for real estate agents and really any kind of sales role, especially with new agents, to help
Yes.
them get to, as quickly as possible, see where they're making transactions and seeing this as a viable career long term. How do y'all handle that onboarding phase and how do you focus on getting them to where they need to be as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible?
Well, as far as the onboarding phase, there are a few of us who are involved with it, right? So I have a woman who works in my department, Chris is her name, who really makes sure she does all the detail aspect of onboarding, getting all the documents, everything that's needed in that, and schedules them for an orientation. We have an orientation, but we have the owners of the company reach out to them. We immediately start inviting them to our trainings, that kind of thing. Drop a little plug in for Brokerkit here. And the way we do that is through text and email campaigns through Brokerkit. So we're instantly putting them on automated campaigns to get them included. And that's the big thing, get them
Mm-hmm.
included. Again, this being a very independent business, you can have agents that sign on, you don't ever see their face again, and they're just doing transaction after transaction. They're getting the support they need, they're going on, carrying on their business. But some need a little more than that, and you try to make sure that they know it's out there. Probably the best question I was ever asked by a newly licensed agent. He said to me, "What are you going to do if you see me struggling?" And I said, and he made like a lifeboat or a life preserver reference. If you see me sinking, I think is what he said. And I said, well, you're going to have to be waving your arms because we're not the kind of company that we're not holding you to these. We don't have sales quotas and that kind of thing. And everybody's
Right.
got their own motivation. So I said, well, we're going to have to see that. But once we see it, we're going to throw you a life preserver. We're going to get you back on the boat and we're going to give you all the help you need. And that's one of the best questions I had because it is such an independent business. You don't know if people are meeting their goals or not because they all have their own individual goals. So I think the biggest thing is staying in contact with people and and sincerely letting them know that, hey, if there's anything you need, let us know. We're here for you. And I think that we do a really good job of that here at HomeSmart.
Okay. And retaining agents is all about onboarding them effectively, coaching them to production, and then keeping them engaged. I mean, we talked about the onboarding. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but like what kind of programs do you have around coaching for new agents, experienced agents? And do you have specific activity targets you ask them to hit, goals, or even just hit a certain number of calls or meetings? Or is there anything that they are asked to hit in terms of activity and what type of coaching do they receive?
Well, oddly enough, only with our mentees in the mentorship program do we have those like specific things that they need to hit and that we hold them accountable for.
Okay.
Everybody else we do really treat as an independent agent. They don't work for us, we work for them. But both HomeSmart Corporate and HomeSmart Eye Care Realty, we have a lot of training and business building opportunities. We have Zoom meetings 4 times a month that are optional, but agents can join in and get updated, that kind of thing. HomeSmart Corporate has all kinds of business building courses and seminars that they can do. And something that we haven't touched on yet, Jim, is you got to give people some fun too.
Hmm.
If it's not a fun culture,
Yep.
they tune out. They really do. We do some fun things, and once Zoom really became popular, we all got used to holding Zoom meetings, but you got to do things in person sometimes. So,
Hmm.
and it might be a lunch and learn. It might be we do a really fun thing that this is going to make me sound bad, but we ride from brew pub to brew pub in downtown Sacramento on bicycles once in a while, and
Okay.
we responsibly ride from brew
Yes.
pub to brew pub, but and we have award ceremonies and those kind of things to keep people engaged.
And how often are people, your agents, in the office these days? And how much is kind of virtual versus, on Zoom sessions versus in the office?
Right. Well, as far as just people coming in on their own, that's such an individual preference thing. But I had a brand new agent the other day, and it was just such great timing because he was asking me, well, what's the real difference between those who come into the office and those? And right then, one of our top producers was just walking by, and she's in the office almost every single day. I said, well, here, why don't you ask Bonnie? Because she can tell you. She's one who's in the office and working every day. With 364 agents, we want to make sure that everything's accessible. All of our trainings that are accessible to everybody. So we do most of it on Zoom just because they don't have to drive into one particular office. But at least once a quarter, we're doing best practices sessions that are in person to bring everybody around.
And so, I mean, that covers kind of most of my questions around the funnel itself and guiding your agents through that funnel. But maybe something a little more personal for you. I mean, you mentioned you've evolved in how you've done things through time as you get to know kind of what works better. But maybe looking back for some of the people a little earlier in the journey, what are some of those tips to your former self that would have gotten you to where you are faster?
To people who are a little early in the recruiting journey,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
okay, the biggest tip I can say, and this is me. What's that saying? Do as I say, not as I do. I'm still not the best follow up guy in the world, but be just a follow up fiend. I mean, follow up, follow up, follow up. That would be the biggest tip. And then back to what I said that it really took me a while. This one I think I am pretty good at now is listening, but listen to those agents. Don't just push your brokerage. Don't just push your company. Every brokerage out there has a lot to offer. I mean, they wouldn't still be in business if they didn't, and I'm saying that of my competitors as well. But don't just push. Listen, find out what agents are really looking for and be honest if you can offer that to them or not.
Hmm. Okay, that's great. Thanks so much, Bruce. So, where can our listeners find you online if they have any more questions for you?
Yeah, homesmarticarerealty.com. We also have our Brokerkit landing page, but I don't know that because it's kind of a little complicated URL. So
Yeah, all good. You
just
don't you
just
well, you don't
Google us, or yeah, if you go on Facebook and search Home Smart Eye Care Realty, we're there.
Thank you so much. Good stuff today, Bruce, from a practitioner in the field, making doing the hard work, making the calls every day, bringing in the agents. Good stuff for our listeners. And so thanks for joining us today, Bruce.
Thank
And of
you, Jim.
course, thanks for our listeners to listening in to, what Bruce has said. Think about what he's doing, right? I mean, I really love those tips at the end around, again, fortunes in the fall and listen, right? Do a lot more listening than talking and focus on finding the pain and how you can address the pain. Those are your two key takeaways from this session. Please tune in the future to hear more actionable tips you can put to work in your business today. Thanks so much and have a great day.